All right, welcome back to Bayou Town. We're going to go straight to the sheriff of Lafourche Parish, Craig Webre. He's been the sheriff so long, I can't even remember the amount of years, but he's been a public servant for that area and done a great job for so many years. Sheriff, good to have you on today. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Martin. I'm doing very well. And just to give you a point of reference, I'm in my 30th year.
There you go. Good. I'm glad you reminded me because I often forget. Uh, Sheriff, let me ask you, you've always been transparent. An unfortunate incident took place that involved your deputy. So I want to get you on and sort of explain to the people what took place so you could give us a little clarity on that if you could, sir.
Sure, Martin. Last night at about 11:26 p.m. Sunday night, leading into Monday morning, our dispatchers received a phone call remotely from a family member of Mr. Daniel Boudreaux's who was out of state. Apparently, Mr. Boudreaux, Daniel Boudreaux, was at the residence of the caller, and there were other people there as well. From what the caller stated to the dispatcher, Mr. Boudreaux was very irate, and he was attempting to take firearms out of the residence. He was doing damage and creating a disturbance and attempting to take firearms. He did, in fact, retrieve and remove a high-powered rifle. He then departed the residence. That was in Lockport on Linda Street. He was driving his, I think, 2001 white Chevy pickup, and he had a passenger, a female passenger, in the pickup. He then traveled short distance from Lockport to Matthews to the 200 block of Adams Street in Matthews, where there were other family members present. At that point, we had been dispatched because of the ruckus of the disturbance and the taking of the weapon, and there was some indication from the caller that he was despondent and may have wanted to commit suicide. As the deputies were approaching the second location on Adams Street, Mr. Boudreaux was leaving, heading back to Highway 1. In fact, the deputy had to pull off the road of Adams Street, let him get by. There were two deputies. They then immediately turned around and got behind him as he approached Highway 1, and he turned right, heading south onto Highway 1. The deputies followed him for a short distance. During that time, the dash cam shows where he was putting his arm out of the window and basically, extending his middle finger. Not a high-speed pursuit, but a pursuit where he didn't want to stop. He then made a U-turn on Highway 1, and by this time it's probably close to midnight, and headed back to where he had originated, back to Adams Street. The deputies followed him down Adams Street, lights and siren, attempting to get him to pull over. As he approached that 200 block where the family members, other family members were living, the deputies noticed that the two doors, the passenger door and the driver's door, were cracked open, suggesting that the passenger and the driver were going to probably bail out and start running. And that's exactly what happened. The truck came to a stop. A female passenger exited on the passenger side, and Mr. Boudreaux exited on the driver's side. And you could clearly see that he had the long gun, the rifle, as he exited, ran to his left towards the rear of the residence. Then the deputy, of course, exits his vehicle and is on foot pursuit. He clears the front of the truck, turns left, and then he yells to Mr. Boudreaux, identifies himself, and orders him to surrender. At that point, Mr. Boudreaux points the rifle towards the deputy, and the deputy initiates gunfire. He fires 3 shots. And then Mr. Boudreaux was apparently hit in his right arm, and Mr. Boudreaux called out for assistance. The deputies went and they rendered assistance until the ambulance arrived, and then the ambulance took him to University Hospital, where he is still there. I believe he was treated for the injury to his arm from the shot from the deputy's firearm. So we had really 2 scenes. The original scene was in Lockport. The secondary scene was on Adams Street. Because this is an officer-involved shooting, I'm sure our protocol is similar to that of most, if not all, law enforcement agencies. We requested the state police to send their investigators in to conduct the investigation of the officer-involved shooting, which they have are in the process of completing. There were several troopers that came and they took that task on. We were involved in the initial dispute in Lockport, as well as the traffic incident where he was fleeing from the officers.
Yeah.
We have interviewed a witness, an eyewitness, who indicated that Mr. Boudreaux had not been taking some medications that he had been prescribed and was agitated and had suggested that he was going to end it and that he was going to have a police officer end his life.
Yeah, and
So that's
Sheriff,
why we have it.
we have a few seconds left. How's the deputy doing? I know you've probably spoken to him several times.
The deputies, there were 3 deputies that responded. Of course, the deputy that had to use deadly force and it is doing well, but it's a traumatic event. Our policy requires that deputies go on administrative leave and have debriefing. So we're arranging that process now.
All right, Sheriff, we appreciate on the tough circumstance, but you're always transparent. We appreciate you joining us, and thank you for joining us, and we'll be in touch soon, and have a great day.
Okay, Martin, if you need anything else, call me back.
All right, thank you. Once again, the Sheriff of Lafourche Parish, Sheriff Craig Weber. There you heard it straight from him. Gave you the whole press release on what took place. We'll be right back.